Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Friday Live. It's Fiona Lukey's here, and here I am, ready to ask any questions that you may have, ready to answer any questions you may have about life, relationships, anything that I can do to be of service to you on this wonderful Friday. What is it? The 28th of January, 2022. If you have just joined me, please say hi and let me know where you are from in the world. It is, oh, hi, Roz. Hello, darling. It is extremely hot here in Melbourne still, very humid, and I know how cold it is around the world. Speaking to a lady in Ontario earlier today, she said it was minus 20 something. Yesterday it was minus 36 there. I can't even comprehend that kind of temperature as we are sweltering here in Melbourne and having a very hot summer. Hey, Cameron, nice to see you. Hello. Hi, Carly. Hello, lovely people. So here I am, ready to answer any questions that you may have. I know there have been a number of people who have bought my ebook lately, and I know some of you have got questions about that because I'm looking in a really different direction. I'm not looking at things like communication styles, personality types, all those kind of things that are the traditional way of looking at relationships, the differences between men and women, masculine and feminine energy. I'm looking at something else completely differently entirely. And when you actually see what I'm pointing to, it is life-changing in every single area of your life. So, but I know in the beginning that can be a little bit confusing for people. So if you have any questions, if you've just bought my ebook and you're not sure about a couple of things, or you're not sure, or you want me to expand on something, let me know and I will do that for you today. So today's Q&A is all about you and me doing whatever I can to be of service to you. I've had, it's school holidays here, so I'm juggling teenagers and all those sorts of things. So my kids are upstairs. They've just had a huge argument. So I've just yelled at them before I came on my live. Don't you love that? It's nothing like parenting and juggling those two things. Now, when I say yelled at them, it was in a very playful, joking way. But so if you hear screaming from upstairs, it's because my son and daughter are arguing over who's going to eat the rest of the pizza for lunch. Anyway, I digress, but here I am. I'd like to keep it real. I'm a mum of 4 kids. 2 of them don't live at home and 2 do. And I'm just like you guys, except I've discovered something that has completely transformed the quality of my life, the quality of my marriage, every single relationship in my life. And, I just want to shout it from the rooftops and I want everyone to know about it. So if you have just purchased my ebook and you're reading it, that is the start of me sharing what I've seen with you all. So I know there's a few of you who are live. Don't be shy. Say hi. I love to know where you are in the world. And like I said, answer any questions that you have. My assistant's just made a document with some questions for me, which I'm going to look at in a second and answer for you. But if you do have a question that you would like me to answer, if you are live, I will answer your question. Okay, so feel free to post it below. If you don't have a question and you want to just tell me, let me know where you are in the world. I'm very, very curious to know where people are from and who's listening. So please say hi. It's always nice to know there are people out there. So I'm going to look at the questions that my assistant has put in a document for me that have been emailed in. So just give me 1 second. I was just looking at them before. All right. Wrong document. Here we go. So looks like I'm not looking at you. It's just because I'm looking at this document. Okay. So the first question that I have here is, what do I, and I know this is one that comes in to me quite a lot. What do I have to do when what do I do when my partner is violating my boundaries? When I let them know my boundaries, but they are feeling so hurt that they react with anger, and I feel like I'm being bullied, and they scream and they yell, and I'm trying to communicate, but they just talk over the top of me and they kind of let their anger run the show. What should I do? It's a really, really great question, and one that comes into me a lot. And I want to address that today because someone's asked it of me, but because I think this is at the heart and soul of many things, isn't it? The one thing that will cause our relationships to fail is our inability to deal with our own and other people's emotional reactions. Okay, huge reason why relationships fail is people don't have the ability to deal with their own or somebody else's emotional reaction. And so when we do that, when we don't have that ability to deal with our own or somebody else's emotional reaction. Hey Barbara, thanks for jumping in and saying hi. Hey Steve, nice of you to jump on board. Haven't met, I'm up in Darwin. Okay, beautiful. All right. Well, hi Steve, welcome to the live. Thanks for saying hi. I really appreciate it. And thanks for saying hi as well, Barbara. I think you are in the States from memory, aren't you, Barbara? Hi, Franca. Hi, darling. Thank you for saying hi. Thank you so much. Oh, Giovanna. Hello in snowy Ontario. I know. I was speaking to a client in Ontario yesterday, minus 36 degrees, Giovanna. It's incomprehensible to me, that kind of temperature. I said, how do you go outside? She said she goes outside to walk her dog. I said, do the dogs have little like snow goggles so that their eyeballs don't freeze? And do they have little coats when they go outside? Like, well, how does that work? I just can't even comprehend it. You guys are at 36 minus, we're at 36 the other way. You know, that's that's the extreme in temperature here. So that's what's that? Basically 100 degrees. Okay, so South Carolina, that's right. I thought so, Barbara. Well, thanks for jumping on board. And if you've just jumped onto the live, feel free to say hi. Always love to know where people are from. So I'm answering a question and that has been asked by me about boundaries and what do I do when someone kind of talks over the top of me and kind of lets their anger run the show and is not listening when I'm trying to communicate. And as I was just saying, you know, there's one of the biggest reasons our relationships fail is because people are not able to deal with their own emotional reaction and they're not able to deal with somebody else's emotional reaction. So these are what we call emotional reaction spirals. People don't know how to deal with them. And, you know, whether you're wanting to change a relationship or fix a relationship or not, being able to deal with your own and someone else's emotional reaction spirals is an essential life skill. Like if you can do that well, you know, the sky's the limit for what's possible for you. Right? If you think about people who are good leaders, I know there are a lot of leaders out there that aren't so great. I get that. But if you think about people who are good leaders, they have that skill down pat. Okay, whether it be from a parenting perspective, whether it be they're leading a team of people, whether they're leading a company, they have that skill. They are able to deal with their own, right? This isn't just about dealing with someone else's emotional reaction spiral. It's about dealing with your own, actually, because your ability to deal with your own stuff has a huge impact on the flavor that you bring and the flavor that you show up from. And so many people struggle with that and then blame everyone else around them for their emotional upset. Oh, that's your fault because you did this. Yeah, but you haven't told me this. So in other words, everything needs to be perfect out there for me to be my best self. Well, if that is the way that you see things, if that's the way that you show up to things, you're going to find life very hard and relationships very hard because there is no ownership over you. And people who don't take any kind of ownership over their stuff find this stuff very, very, very hard. You'll find that they'll get into a relationship and whilst they're on best behavior, it'll all go well. And then as their inability to deal with that comes out, the relationship will implode and friendships, et cetera, et cetera. You see this with parents. You know, I work with a lot of families and parents and, you know, maybe you've got that kind of parenting style where it's kind of like, do as I say, and that kind of works until your kids get to about 9 or 10. And then after that, if there isn't any kind of mutual respect, understanding, if you're not able to control your emotional reaction spirals, you will find that you are parenting a teenager that you cannot relate to, who does not listen to you. And it feels like, you know, you've got the Grand Canyon between you and your child. So being able to not control, but being able to deal with your own emotional reaction spirals and somebody else's is essential. And so I say to people, whether you want to change your relationship or not, this is something that you need to take care of within yourself because there isn't an area in your life where that is not fundamentally important. And people who do that stuff well, you know, get promoted in jobs, are really great at running businesses, obviously have great relationships with their kids, great relationships elsewhere in their lives. And, you know, are able to have a really beautiful influence upon the people around them, which feels good for all of us, right? Because as human beings, we all have a need and a desire to contribute to others, to know that we can make a difference. Okay, we all have that want. I'm yet to meet a human being that doesn't. And I say this not because I want to brag about myself, but just so that you understand that you are talking to someone who's been around for a while. I've worked with thousands of people all over the world over many years. So I don't say this from no credible reference point. Okay, this is super, super important. And, the other thing that is really important, and I'm going to come back and finish answering your question, okay, about boundaries. So the main reason why relationships fail, people can't deal with their own and other people's emotional reaction spirals. People can't deal with differences, can't deal with them. They get totally upset. You're different to me, you need to be like me. This is what happens. I see this all the time. So, we have differences, and differences can be the fork in the road for a relationship. And what I mean by fork in the road, that can be the point where the relationship ends because we're different. How many times have I heard that? Oh, we're just too different. It's not about your differences, guys. It's about your inability to handle them. They're two very different things, right? It's not the differences, it's your inability to handle them. Okay? Differences are not a bad thing. Differences can be a wonderful thing. I mean, take my husband and I. We're very different in many, many ways. As some of you know, my husband is a musician, and I wouldn't say that about myself now, but when I first met him, I would say I was musically illiterate. I was a pop listener, channel surfer, just, whatever was on the radio kind of chick, and really had no appreciation for music whatsoever. I have a very different take on that now. My husband is, I've learned so much from him, and it's been really enjoyable. But the difference was that my husband would listen to music and I would read books. And in my mind, reading books was how you gained knowledge, not by listening to music. Right? Now, I know if some of you are listening, I don't feel that way now, so don't persecute me, but that's just how I saw things a number of years ago. And so in my mind, back then, without knowing what I know now, without the understanding that I teach about human beings, and the key word here is human beings, not men versus women, human beings, because we're all human beings, okay? That's more important than our gender, is seeing that, looking in that direction, and understanding that, as opposed to how do I talk to women, how do I talk to men? That's just like the hardest, most complicated way to do anything, and it's not dealing with your natural flow. Okay, so what will happen when you learn a skill like that, how to talk to women, how to talk to men, is whilst you're thinking about it, it might be helpful. But when you're going about your day-to-day life and you're just doing you, and that's not front of mind, then all of a sudden it all goes out the window, right? You've got to learn something that enables you to be you and to be natural and flow and show up differently, right? And it doesn't come from working out the differences between men and women. It comes from seeing the sameness in human beings and having compassion, understanding, and appreciation for that. That's the key to everything, right? The key. And so this is a massive part about what I teach, because when people understand that, there is a lot more effort and flow and relationships. Yes, they do. People get very upset with me on my Facebook ads when I make this statement. I get a lot of trolls and a lot of upset people telling me I don't know what I'm talking about. But yes, relationships can be easy and effortless from that space. Okay. And I can give you example after example after example of people who have now discovered this and are living from this space. Okay, so differences become the fork in the road, because at this point people start saying, oh, isn't it interesting at the beginning of a relationship how differences are refreshing and interesting, and oh, it's so nice, they do it this way and I do it this way. It's this enjoyable thing, right? And then as the relationship progresses, it's like, no, you need to do it my way. No, you need to do it my way. No, but my way is better. No, but I'm more right than you. No, you got to go this way. You got to go that way, right? So the differences, we start defending our differences instead of being curious and saying, hey, you do that differently to me. Maybe there's something for me to learn, because I'd love to learn more about that, right? And I'd love to learn more about that. So differences can be the fork in the road where you get over yourself, you get curious, and you admit that maybe there's something in there for me, and you reach out and you see it as an opportunity to grow and learn, or you see it as an opportunity to condemn, put someone down, make them wrong, and separate. That's up to each person. But see how it's never the difference that's the problem. It's how you handle them. Okay? And so differences often become the fall guy in the relationship when what really is missing is a lack of goodwill, a lack of humility, compassion, and understanding. So getting back to my question, or the question that was asked of me. Hey, Maz, nice to see you, darling. Hello. I've sent you a message in Voxer a little while ago, by the way. Can you please check it? Now that I think about it, because you're on my list of people to email today, that now I can tell you live. So it's really, really important. First of all, understanding that you have got to learn how to deal with emotional reaction spirals, yours and someone else's. And whether you're working on a relationship or not, this is just a fundamental life skill. It's something that everybody should learn and know, because we all need that foundational understanding, regardless of whether our relationships are in trouble or not, because the flow-on effect of that is ginormous, right? There is so much possibility that comes when you understand that. You also need to know how to handle differences. Differences are never the fall guy, right? They're not. People will argue with me about this, but they're not. They are a reflection of how you're handling them, okay? They really are. They're a reflection of how you're handling them. And I'm going to talk about a key difference that I see in 95% of people that come my way in a relationship, right? So in a relationship, you have someone who is more of the talker, communicator, wants to sort things out now, and you have someone who's more quiet, considered, likes to process, sit with things, and has a tendency to shut down when they're upset. Okay, this is generally the case so many people are shocked by this. This is so common. Okay, so in a relationship, you have someone who is more of the communicator, talker, wants to sort it out, and more likely to get angry and anxious externally when they're upset. And then you're going to have someone who is more of the quieter, more considered, more, I guess, chilled out, so to speak, and they're more likely to shut down and not want to talk about anything and to go into shutdown phase when they're upset. Okay, and so you have these polar opposites. This person, the communicator, wishes this person would be just like them. This person, who is the shutdown, quieter person, wishes this person would be more quieter and be just like them. Okay, so you have these differences. Now, if you actually think about it, right, there are things in each other that each other could do with, right? The quieter, more considered person, there's probably something that the person who communicates is more expressive in the now, who's able to deal with something in the now, who wants to communicate. There's probably something that you could actually learn from that, right? I'm not saying you need to become that, but something that you could learn from it. And the person who's more of the expressive person, the communicator, who's putting it out there and projecting and whatever, could probably learn when there's times to speak and time to zip it, right? So there's something for you both to learn if you've got the humility and the grace, and I talk about humility and grace a lot, to see it in one another and to appreciate the difference as opposed to condemning the difference. Now, there is a reason, if you are in a relationship like that, why you are in that relationship, because there is something you intrinsically know you need more of. Okay? It's a true story. Very, very important. And so, of course, and as human beings, we will justify anything, won't we? So the person who's the talker, who's the communicator, who's probably more angry and projecting kind of thing, will justify, well, at least I'm getting it out there. At least I'm able to sort it out right now. At least I can talk about it, right? Okay, because to them, talk about it, we move on. Yeah, that makes sense to them in their world. That makes sense. It's clear. It's like, why can't we just do that? Now, this person who's more considered, quieter, more chilled out, so to speak. I'm not saying the other person isn't chilled out, but likes to process, is probably saying to themselves, well, at least I'm not just, yelling at everyone and just saying whatever comes to mind. At least I'm more considered. At least I'm kinder. I mean, I might think it, but I'm not saying it. Okay. So you have these two people justifying their realities and justifying why their reality is better than another reality. Okay. And so then they'll come together And if that thinking becomes more entrenched, and it does, talking about the problem, how can we communicate better, how can you be more like me, is not the answer. It just has people more entrenched in their position, more believing that their position is correct and true, right? What needs to come before that is an understanding of goodwill, is an understanding of the flavor that you're bringing, is you having the ability to be reflective and have the humility and grace to see maybe there is something for me to appreciate and learn here. But this is not what people are taught how to do. Okay, it's all about compromise. Well, if you yell less, I'll talk more. That does not work long term. Doesn't. That just creates more Groundhog Day. Because when you're upset, do you think you have the ability to talk less? The person who's talking a lot. When the person who's quieter is upset, do you think they have the ability to talk more? No. Because when we're upset, and another word for upset is when we are in insecure thinking. Okay, and everybody goes in and out of insecure thinking. So don't hear that as though there's something wrong with you. We all have insecure thinking. It's human nature. So when you've got two people who are in low thinking, insecure thinking, who have no emotional intelligence in that moment, those things aren't available. And in the moment, the differences get blamed, when actually the problem is that there is a low level of emotional intelligence in both parties in that moment. Okay, and so people don't have the foresight, insight, ability to see beyond it. But what happens is, without an understanding of goodwill is foundational to everything. Without an understanding of how we create a reality, how we work, people just keep projecting. You need to change for me to be okay. You need to change for me to be okay. And so what you're innocently projecting is you are not enough and you are not enough. Now, not being enough is one of the 3 key universal fears of all human beings. So you feel like that enough around someone. Are you going to want to bring your best self? No. Are you going to be interested in your differences? No. Are you going to feel like you feel better everywhere else except than when you're in that relationship? Yes. And so it's going to look like the problem is the other person, but it's not, right? It's everything that happens before that point that is the leverage point. Okay, so many programs and understandings out there are all about the stuff that happens after the leverage point. Okay, now I'm not saying those things aren't helpful, like, communication styles, personality types, values, etc., or interesting, but they are not the leverage point that creates change. They're really not. It's such a hard way to create change, such a hard way to make a difference in a relationship. That isn't the key. The leverage point is the things that I'm talking about beforehand. That then changes this. And that's easy and organic and freeing and lighter. And you feel like you can then be a reflection of you, rather than I've got to put myself into someone else's box, turn myself inside out and upside down to make someone else happy, which is not sustainable in any relationship. It's just not. People can do that for a period of time. And really what they don't realize is when you do that, you're going against your own soul. And, regardless of what your viewpoints are around that, you will get to a point where you'll say, enough is enough. I can't do it anymore. And so people just abruptly leave. And hence why I get so many people who come to me who are completely, and they'll say, I'm blindsided. I didn't see it coming. But if you have an understanding of the things that I'm talking about, you can make a profound difference without twisting yourself inside out and into knots. I'm just going to stop for a second here and just check in and see if this is making sense. Hey, Chris. Nice to see you. Thanks for saying hi. Is this making sense, guys? Is this helpful to you? Just give me some feedback on that. That would be great. And I'm going to go back and finish this question. This poor person has asked me that I haven't quite finished answering whilst I'm just waiting for some feedback. Okay. All right. Yes. Okay. Cool. And if you've just joined us, please feel free to say hi. Always love to know who's around and who's watching. And just if you are watching this and I'm not answering your question or not responding, chances are you're watching this after the live has finished. I see a lot of people jumping in after the live is finished and saying, Fiona, can you hear me? And it's just because the live is actually finished and you're watching a recording of it, okay, at a later date. So we come back to the lady or the person who sent me an email about boundaries. It's important to understand everything that I'm talking about first, okay, in order for me to answer that question. So how are you with your own emotional reaction spiral? Where's the level of goodwill? How do you show up to differences? Are you aware of the flavor that you're bringing? See, in order to be able to assess anything, you got to know these things, right? You can't just look at the end result of something. You have to look at the stuff I'm talking about beforehand. The end result, right, is not where the information lies, okay? It's here, okay? It's here. What's going on around this? Now, as you have an understanding of those things, then you can have a conversation about boundaries very, very differently. Because what I find is some people, okay, when goodwill is really low, people do not respect each other's boundaries. And that's because when goodwill is low, everyone is more focused on the me than the we. So it just becomes two me's during battle. That's what it does. I see this all the time, okay? Becomes two me's. So there is no point trying to fix the two me's if there's no we. Make sense? And so often I see people going, I need to put more boundaries in place. Maybe so. But it's a heck of a lot easier to do so from this space than when there's just two me's, no goodwill, and people are just at loggerheads, because it just becomes this, everything just explodes and gets worse and worse and worse. So my answer to your question is, do you have an understanding of these things that I'm talking to? Because when you do, this changes. I get emails about this every single day from people who are doing my Relatable program or another one of my programs, or a private client saying, oh my goodness, Fiona, I just got one from a lady in the UK just a couple of days ago. She's doing my Relatable program. When she came to me, she and her partner were separated. She felt that he was emotionally unintelligent, unable to listen, and was never really going to get anything. In fact, if I was reading between the lines, because I've not spoken to her, she's just communicated with me via email. If I was reading between the lines, really what she's saying is, look, I'm in a relationship with this guy. He's not all that great. Like, I'm putting up with it, but I think I could do better. But look at what I got to live with, right? The baseline isn't so hot. That's kind of what I was hearing between the lines. It's so interesting because she sent me an email a couple of days. She probably started the program, I don't know, just before. No, it would have been early Jan, I'm thinking. Either just before Christmas or early January. And she said, Fiona, I cannot believe the difference. We are having such a great time together. He's moved back in. It's so different. She said, I see now what I was doing, what I was bringing, what I was creating, the space I see it now. I couldn't see it before. And it has changed everything. He's listening to me. I didn't think he could. She said, every time I tried to talk to him before and say, I really need you to listen, he'd be like, I don't understand. You just want me to repeat what you're saying? Because I'd say, you're not listening. He'd be like, but I am. And she's like, but you're not. And he goes, so what? I just repeat what you're saying? And she's like, he's just never going to get it. Now, completely different. Fiona, there is that we are having a meeting of the minds, something I talk about in Relatable. We are in partnership. Who knew? I thought I was in a relationship with a male who just didn't get it. She goes, actually, it was me, right? It was me. So, what I'm teaching you, you've got to understand, guys. I know some of you might be listening if you're in a difficult situation going, yeah, but you don't understand. My partner's like this. Yeah, but I'm dealing with this. But we've got this going on and that going on. Believe me, whatever your yeah, but is right now, or your objection, I've heard it all. And I don't mean that to diminish what you're saying. I don't. That's not what I'm saying, guys. But I've heard it all. There is no exception to what I'm saying. There really isn't. Okay? So this is where the magic lies. The things that I've just been talking about. So the lady who's sent me the email about boundaries, you've got to have an understanding of that first, because that will have a very big impact and difference on how he is or isn't listening. Now, by all means, guys, if you've got this understanding that I'm a down pat, you understand it all, and you're showing up from that place, and you feel that the relationship still is not working, well, that's a whole different conversation, right? But at least you're actually able to make that decision from a place where you're kind of fully informed. I think so many people make decisions or decide to leave something not because they don't want to be with that person, but they just can't see a way forward, right? They just can't see a way forward. It just feels hard. It feels clunky. It just feels like they're at loggerheads all the time, and they just can't seem to get past that point. Now, what I'm sharing with you here is a way forward. But it does have a lot to do with what you see for you, because you're a lot more powerful than you realize, a lot more. And I just did a Facebook Live about this in my Relatable private members group, because I had a massive insight around that yesterday and the day before. So I've just done a live for that in there. We just had a really cool conversation. So you got to see that you are way more powerful than you realize. Now, there's a lot of wonderful things that come from when you see that in yourself. You stop leading with your insecurities. You stop projecting onto everybody else. You're a lot more calmer, grounded, and have a stronger sense of self. People who have that going on are great at relationships. They really are, because they bring out the best in each other. They bring out the best in each other instead of the worst. Okay, just going to do a check-in. Love this. Every time I hear you talk, I always get a deeper understanding. One day it'll finally sink in. It's already sinking in, honey. You've come a massively long way. You know that. But thank you. Thank you, Roz. Anybody else? Is this making sense? I'm not sure what the means, Chris. I'm not quite sure what that means. But feel free to expand on that. Let's do a quick check-in here. How am I doing? Okay, because I've got one more question I need to answer today before I finish. I've got one more question that I need to answer before I finish. Okay. Painful truth. Beautiful teaching, Fiona. Oh, thanks, Giovanna. Painful truth. Well, you know, Chris, it can be a little bit painful in the beginning, but just see this as a wonderful opportunity for you to step into something else, right? I was actually saying this on with the live earlier that, you know, and I'm going to do a social media post about this once I get a bit of time this afternoon. But, you know, I was saying that, you know, the universe doesn't give us what we seek. The universe gives us an opportunity to become what we seek. Okay, this is very, very important. And if you're not sure what I mean, I'm going to do a post around that after I get off this live. I've got a client after this, but after I've done that, I'm going to do a post around that, and you can make some comments, and I'll engage with you there around that. But you know, there's nothing like our relationships to give us an opportunity to become what we seek. Nothing like it. So it's a wonderful learning ground and a wonderful opportunity. Okay. Look, you know, Chris, many people say that. I wish I'd learned earlier. True, but don't get too caught up in that. We just learn when we're ready to learn. And sometimes, right, if you look back over your life, you're often getting an opportunity to learn something, and we often miss it. And that's just the journey of the funny little human, as I call us. We often get opportunities that we don't see. And at some point we see it. Be grateful for what you have seen. Okay. And I want you to notice the difference, being grateful for what you have seen versus living in regret. Regret does not move you forward. It keeps you stuck. Gratitude moves you forward. And it's all about forward motion, or another word for that is expansion. And that's what we're here for and what we're doing. Okay. Now, my next question that I'm going to answer here, or the last question I'm going to answer is, Good evening, Fiona. I've just listened to your recorded live show. I'm not sure if she means my Facebook Live or maybe it's my Facebook Live on my podcast. Just a question. If your husband is in self-protection mode, can that stop them from being in love with their wife now? It's a great question. The one thing that I will say, it's not so much about stopping love. It's just that we block it. Okay. I know some of you have heard me say that my intention for this year is letting love in. And, it is. And already from me setting that intention, I've had some amazing insights this week, just beautiful, like stuff's just pouring out of me. And I've been sharing it with my relatable members. Like it's just huge because we're up to a really big conversation in that group. Okay. And, I'm like, there's stuff coming to me that I'm seeing. And I really do feel like it's got a very big part of that is because of my intention that I've set, which is to let love in. So what we don't realize is that when we are in self-protection mode, we block love. We just block it. We don't realize. This is why people don't realize the price that they are paying. They don't realize what they're missing. They don't realize the price that they are paying. Okay. Hey, Graham. Yes, the relatable family. That's what we are. We're a beautiful family. So there's a price that you pay when you go into self-protection mode. So yeah, you get to protect yourself, but you block love. You don't let love in. And I am not talking about romantic love. I'm talking about love on a level that is often not discussed. Okay. I'm talking about opportunity. I'm talking about manifestation. I'm talking about the opportunity to feel good. I'm talking about you seeing things. I'm talking about your ability to move forward, to get over things, to feel joy, to stop the overanalyzing and the criticism and all the things that we do in our heads that keep us stuck. The opportunity to let go, to embrace the new, to deal with change, to deal with the unfamiliar, to step into something else. Like I could go on and on with what it costs you when you block love. Hence why letting love in is module 6 in Relatable. I've done a whole module about it because it's so important. So it's not so much that they are not in love, that they are not able to love their wife. They're just blocking love entirely. And unfortunately, people don't know this. And they might in that moment be able to feel like they're protecting themselves from something to say they're not so vulnerable. But the price that you pay for that, like now that I've seen this, and I used to be someone who was in self-protection mode a lot because I was very angry and reactionary. I could not deal with my own emotional reaction spirals, let alone anybody else's. And I was in overdrive all the time, A-type personality, just go, do. And I just blocking love left, right, and center. So, I say this as someone who's been on this journey for a long time, who's truly seen what was there before and what is now available to me after. And it is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me and the greatest gift that has come my way. And I say that all of the time. So it's not so much that your husband is not able to love their wife. They just blocking love entirely. They're not able to love anyone at that point. So it's not personal. See that? It's not personal. See, we take these things personally and then we get super stuck. It's not personal. It's just that is where they are at. Now, the last thing I want to say to you to finish this off, because I've been talking for a while today, haven't I? The last thing that I want to say to you to finish this off is remember, a person is not their behavior. They're not, but that's where we go sometimes, but it's not who we are. When you start to see that, it's much, much easier to show up without taking things as personally. And a key to dealing with your own emotional reactions spirals and somebody else's, a key to dealing with differences, a key to goodwill, a key to everything is your ability to see the impersonal nature of life, because it is very impersonal. So to wrap up, if I was to give you kind of an overarching thing, what I am pointing to is the nature of a relationship as opposed to the doing of a relationship. You have to understand the nature of something in order to handle the doing differently. Okay? When we understand the nature of something, we are less frightened, we're less confused, we get less insecure, right? Think about the weather right now. Like I'm in Melbourne, it's very humid, there's big thunderstorms coming. Now, thunderstorms can be scary. They're loud and there's lightning bolts and, it sounds like some of the cracks of lightning can be really intimidating, but I understand the way a lightning storm works. I understand that it's temporary. I understand the weather works, so I can sit and enjoy it instead of feeling like the earth is about to end, because I understand the nature of the weather. See that? So how I show up to the weather changes. When you understand the nature of relationships, how you show up to them changes. The nature of something is the key to understanding it. So I am all about the nature of human beings, not men and women. See that? The nature of human beings. When you understand the nature of human beings, the way you see human beings changes. And when you see something differently, you show up differently, organically, naturally, easily, and effortlessly. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for sticking with me. 40 minutes is a long time, isn't it? I hope that this has been helpful to you and it has been of service. And I look forward to seeing you here next Friday at 1:30. For those of you, and I've got quite a few messages here from people who my assistants just messaged me with people who want to know about Relatable, who would like to join. I'll put the link there. Honestly, Relatable is an amazing program it's an amazing conversation, and it will change your life in ways that you can't possibly imagine. Okay, everybody, thanks so much for being here. I'll see you next week. If you've got a question you would like me to answer, post it below and I'll get my assistant to gather them and I'll answer them next week. Or you can send me an email to hello@fionalukis.com.au. Okay, lots of love. Oh, thanks, Giovanna. Relatable is life-changing. Yes, it is. This is true. And thank you so much, darling. Thanks, Maz. 40 minutes isn't long enough listening to you. Thanks, darling. Thanks, everybody. Lots of love. See you next week. Ciao.